Hello and welcome to chapter 133 of DC Alliance podcast. With me, as always, is Clay. Clay, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. Ran some errands today. Couldn't really do much for the fact that it is Labor Day and didn't know that, it could have just been as easily as one little Google search, but instead I was just like, I want to get out of the house anyway, so let me drive over there and then do my chores and whatnot, my errands. And I needed to return something from Amazon, and the UPS store was completely shut down. I was like, oh, it's Labor Day. Yep. Okay. So wasted a little bit of gas, but got out of the house, and it's been a while. So not too bad at all. Caught up on Stargirl, almost completely forgot about that show, to be completely honest. And yeah, my day was pretty easy.
That's good to hear. We have some fun stuff to talk about today. We have, like Clay just talked about, Stargirl season 3 premiere. We also have a pretty fun episode of Smallville as well to talk about at the very end of this episode. And we have some interesting news, including some news that just came right off the hop that we'll discuss an article. But before we do all that, obviously, we have to do the network plugs. We are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance with 8 shows in total. On Mondays is Ranger Alliance with Clay and rotating guest hosts of Jake and Joe. They get you covered on everything on the Power Ranger side of things. And that rotates bi-weekly with Slice of Film with Katie and guest hosts Mark and Sarah. That's where they get you covered on all the new movies and some old movies in between. They're also covering the House of the Lord of the Rings, the new show, but previous first, Katie has put out a recap of the Lord of the Rings movies. I thought that came out last week, along with her episode 1 review of House of Dragons. She also has an episode 2 review out now. I'm pretty sure.
All 3 episodes are
Yeah,
out. That
I
was the
have.
stipulation. That was the one thing we had the conversation, because I am the one editing that episode, or that series, mind you. And we thought that if we were going to put it out on the GUA feed, it needed to be at the end of every single episode. So all 3 episodes are on the feed currently right now.
Okay, that's great. I am trying to avoid everything House of Dragons at the moment because I'm still debating if I'm going to jump back in. It's a big commitment after Game of Thrones, and I don't know if I can really handle that again to go through that
Hey,
whole
I
thing.
I will tell you this, it seems like everybody is in on it. Like, even those who possibly said, "Hey, season 8 sucks. I don't want anything to do with Game of Thrones." I think a lot of them came back to the series.
I feel like I may eventually get there. Maybe I'll watch all of season 1 in completion, but we'll find that out after. But check Katie out for those breakdowns for that show. On Tuesdays, of course, is this show, DC Alliance, with myself and Clay. We've been covering the chaos that is DC lately, and it's been fun, but we thank you for joining us for that. On Wednesdays is Superhero Discussions, my show where I look at all the animated content. We were on the weekends doing Harley Quinn episodes, but I recorded our first episode of the Rick and Morty review for the season 6. The premiere episode came out on Sunday. I was joined by 2 guests for that. And if you're a Patreon member, you already have access to that show because it went up like an hour ago. So check that out if you're a patron. On Thursdays is Star Wars Alliance with Katie and Clay. They get you covered on anything and everything Star Wars. On Fridays is Marvel Alliance with Chris and Brent. They get you covered on the Marvel side of things. Obviously, She-Hulk is booming right now, and I've been enjoying every episode and every twerk that she has done, and every tear that a man baby has cried is just more to the enjoyment, I guess, for me. So check those guys out for breakdowns of those episodes of that great show. On Saturdays, bi-weekly, is a walk through the multiverse with Joe. That's where Joe looks at everything that isn't DC, Star Wars, and Marvel. On Sundays, monthly, is World's Finest True Believers with Chris Balga. That's where Chris and a guest take a look at a comic of the guest's choice. Ryan Lauer from Batman Book Club was on Chris's most recent episode, looking at Captain America White. Check that out. It's a great episode. And we have a new survey, Clay, for the
Yes.
GUA network. It's pinned to the GUA Twitter profile, so check that out. All the shows have shared it, and I think all the GUA members have shared it as well. It's maybe 5 minutes max. It really would help us out, telling us what you like and don't like about the network and the shows, and anything we can do to improve on that. It's just a little bit of feedback. We're on 2 years now, so just something to help us give you guys a better product, and we appreciate the time you take to do that. Clay, we have 3 shows that go live on the Geekverse YouTube channel. On Mondays is this show, DC Alliance, that goes at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. On Wednesdays is Star Wars Alliance, that goes at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And on Thursdays is Marvel Alliance, that goes 10 p.m. Eastern Time. All 3 of those shows also have their own podcast feeds. Search Marvel Alliance, DC Alliance, or Star Wars Alliance if you just want Marvel content, DC content, or Star Wars content. But if you want all 8 shows on the GUA Podcast Network, stay subscribed to the GUA on your podcast app of choice. We also have a Patreon, 2 tiers, a $1 tier and a $5 tier. The $1 tier is where you get where is a tip jar, and it's just you like what we're doing. You want to help us out any way you can. And the $5 is where you get your extras. You get your ad-free episodes, early access episodes like the superhero discussions episode that is up right now, and Patreon exclusive episodes like DC films through the years, where myself and Joe are going through the old DC films. We have went through the Wonder Woman 1974 and 75 pilot. We have went through Superman 78 was our most recent one. We've also gone through Batman 66, the movie. So check that out. We'll be doing Superman 2 next. You also have the Marvel Alliance guys going through their We Can Watch This All Day MCU rewatch. I think Thor 2 was their most recent entry. And I think they teased on Twitter what their next entry is. So check that out. On We also have Clay doing his first watches, and he's doing Game of Thrones right now, which is pretty good considering we have House of Dragon going at the same time. I'm just going to enjoy Clay's enjoyment of the show, or maybe lack thereof at times. We also have my top 5s. We have Joe's Multiverse Minutes. We also have Katie going through Star Wars comics with her husband, Matt. So we thank everyone that's a patron for us. We greatly appreciate it. But if you can give a quick 30 to 60 seconds to rate and review the podcast on your podcast app of choice, that would be greatly appreciated. It helps us be found on the algorithm for more people, and that's always a good thing for the show. So Clay, I think that's everything. I even managed to not forget the newest thing that I had to add to the show notes. So gonna give myself a little pat on the back, but I might take half of it back considering I did the superhero discussions episode earlier today. Had to do the introduction for that. I basically read the DC Alliance show notes, so I've done this twice now.
Nice. And also, you've already said it, but I do want to emphasize about the survey. There will be a link to it in our show notes. So if you are listening to this post YouTube channel, just know that you can look into any podcatcher that you are listening to currently. Looking at those show notes, you will see that there is, in fact, a link to the survey. And all it is, honestly, is uh, us asking, hey, what is it that you like about the GUA, your dislikes, your opinions on each and every single show that we have. And we want feedback. We want your criticism because we want to give you, the audience, a the best listener experience for sure. But the first thing that we have today for our discussion, so I did not see this article until literally right before we started talking. Well, yeah, right before me and Heinz started talking before recording. We saw in our GUA chat, all of us hosts get together usually every single day to talk about the stuff that comes out every single day. And there's this article by the Hollywood Reporter that's titled David Zaslav's Hollywood Doctrine. Make sure we get paid. And on the specific tweet from the Hollywood Reporter, it says David Zaslav wants to be the anti Netflix, all in on theatrical, a fan of linear TV, happy to sell content to other players and focus on the bottom line. Now, the only thing that made me cringe after Chris was the one that posted that, Snell decided to say, "Oh, so they want to do the Sony method." And guys, if you've seen Sony and all of their, I guess, quote unquote success, I don't want DC to be Sony. I don't want WBD to be Sony.
Nobody wants to be Sony, Clay.
So
Sony doesn't want
Heinz,
to be Sony.
so overall, Heinz, you ran through this article pretty quickly right before we jumped on here. What are your thoughts on this? Like, how do you feel about the decisions that are being made? And of course, this is more of a speculatory article, but it does have a little bit of analytics to it. So how do you feel about all this?
First off, I'm a little bit disgruntled right now because my dog was making noises just before we started, and apparently he went and peed downstairs because I guess he wanted to go out. So that was kind of disappointing to just look at and see that. So I have to clean that up after the show. So yay for midnight cleanings of the house. Everyone enjoys those. Thankfully, I have no work or school tomorrow, so yay. But for this article, Clay, this is basically what they're half of the way they're operating right now, which is we'll license out that kind of content. That's what happened with Batman Capes Crusaders, among the other animated content. I think all of it's going to be tried to be licensed out to streaming services and other things. There's a bidding war right now, apparently, for Cape Crusaders, among several other properties. So yeah, I can see why they're going this route. Uh, I can see it if he even had to look at what they were getting from Netflix for the DCCW shows. Then maybe he's like, man, if we have
Well,
three or
no,
four,
I
that's
just
quite the increase, especially with how their HBO Max is not expanding yet. So like we don't have it, Europe doesn't have it.
this may be speculation on my part, but for a guy that says this is show business, not show friends, it looks like he wants to give a lot of money to his business friends and
What do you
not
mean?
taking. I mean, like when selling these things to these other networks, the money goes both ways. It doesn't just go directly to him, you know?
Oh yeah.
So, like, I feel like if he were to keep it on a platform that is strictly under Warner Brothers Discovery, he would get all that money.
But you get all the costs that come with creating the show, the overhead for the show, the producing, the marketing, all that, instead of licensing out. Look at all the stuff they got, like the DCCW, the money they got for those shows. Could you imagine four really, really, really good shows? Could you imagine if they didn't have HBO Max, how much a service would pay for House of Dragon right now?
See, I don't see it that way though. I
Oh,
really don't.
look what Amazon has pumped into Lord of the Rings. Imagine if Apple had a shot at House of
Well,
Dragon and
see,
what they
see
would.
now Lord of the Rings is a little bit tricky just for the fact that Lord of the Rings now is owned by somebody completely different, not just Amazon.
No, I know. I'm
So,
just talking about it from like the Apple, the Amazon side of it. That's all. You're competing with that. Those are your rivals, especially in the streaming service game. So I could totally see it going that route and just them capitalize because of the debt they have. Clay, they have so much debt. Like they're writing off projects to cover their debt, and this is a quicker way to get actual cash flow coming in.
it's quicker, but then you have to deal with the fact of like, oh, well, we have to write these contracts for so long, and then once we finally recovered, we
Well,
still can't have that content because all these
Well,
contracts,
yes, you can.
and then
Look
you're
at
in.
Gotham, for example. Gotham goes right back to HBO Max now. The deal that they made with Netflix is up. The Gotham
But
content goes right back to,
it
and now it's on
it
HBO Max. 5 seasons of it.
but it's convenient that it happened right now.
Oh
You know
yeah,
what I
but that's
mean?
just the timing of things. Maybe this is why they released this stuff now too.
But you
It's
need to
it's
understand, I'm still in the boat that Zaslav is going to sell in 2.5 years.
yeah, but
So
that's just I can't do anything to change that boat. Like I'm just telling you
no,
what I
but
from way I see it.
in the idea of if he does sell, he's making all of these contracts for longer than he's planning to keep WB. And then once he sells, everybody else who joins in on all this has to keep true to those contracts.
Clay, that's the same thing that happened before and before. Like when their movies were already there's 4 movies that were on the docket when he took over. That he didn't get a chance to green light, and that's just the way it is when you take over a business that's already operating.
Well, I know. It just definitely feels like Zaslav is just creating chaos more so than
No, it
anything
seems like
else.
he's focusing on theatrical and not like doing what the predecessor did, which was come to HBO Max and make content, and we will write you a blank check for the said content if it's good. Like, come here,
Well,
develop
yeah,
your
but
content.
also
Look at
that
JJ, for
does
example.
that does create okay, JJ, he is a
I'm just saying, you
master
brought him
he's a
in to
master
create.
he's a mastermind of being able to take $250 million and then disappear. But that's not always the case. You're not going to have a JJ every contract that you write, right?
No, but I'm just saying it was more like the where we got when Discovery took over was that they had free reign. When they looked under the hood, they just gave like budgets that were not deserved to projects. So I can understand why they accumulated so much debt. And I can understand the AT&T, the previous regime's kind of thinking too of we got to create content for this platform. Once we do, well, they were looking at a long-term gain. Like eventually we will have enough content, we will get people going to our streaming service, and these deals with these other services, those will be up and we'll get all this content back. So, and you don't have to sign, like, it's not everything either. Some stuff can go to HBO Max, some stuff can't. So
Oh,
it's still
true,
up
but
there.
I just what really just like irks me is I said this before we started recording that Zaslav tried to sell his pitch on that investors call of, hey, we're going to be exactly like Marvel. We're going to be exactly like Disney when it comes to DC. And with this coming out, that's not going to be the case because it's going to be on a base by base thing. And WB is going to be making all these theatrical movies,
Well,
whereas somebody else could have all of the other shows,
no,
or
see,
different
see,
properties can have all the other shows.
see, what I get from this is Peacemaker is still coming out on HBO Max. James Gunn said, no, that's okay. And that's the only DC show right now that is connected
Currently,
to the film. Yeah, but I'm just saying currently. So it stands to reason as of right now, any DC EU TV property will still end up on HBO Max. Right now, it still tends to reason right now because only things we've seen are properties that aren't DC EU proper. Basically, be told like this is your last season, a la Doom Patrol and uh, Titans.
true, but I don't know. I guess this is the optimist versus the pessimist here because I see this and I'm like, oh, everybody else is going to have these shows and we're going to have like six different streamers in order to follow the DCEU. Whereas you're like, no, that's not going to happen. And
Well,
I bet you,
I can't say that you're no, I can't say that what you're saying won't happen. I'm just saying right now, I can't say that like, yeah, that's the right they're going just because only DCEU TV show or well show, I can't call it TV show, but only DCU show is on HBO Max both for the season, and they're getting a second season. And James Gunn said, "Hold, like, calm down. We're still on HBO Max right now." So just all news. Like, now that could change next week. Gunn could say, we're going to Netflix for Peacemaker. It's going to be around the world. That could happen, and I'll be right in the end. But just from the facts I'm given right now, I can only say that it seems like they're not going to just make random DC content everywhere. They're going to license people out to do it, but they're not going to make it under their own umbrella, which is what I wondered. I thought that might happen when HBO Max started. I thought that the DCCW would own its own little corner of HBO Max, but that's not at all how it worked.
no, that's not how it played out whatsoever.
No.
Now, that is really it for this article. There's nothing else really there. Like I said, there's some speculation on like, well, is this the good way to go and all of this other stuff? And there's like a there's an analyst there and everything else. Again, all speculation at this point. But our next part of the news topics here is Harley Quinn gets ready for another round with season 4. I know you're excited for this. I will be completely honest. I still need to watch this week's episode. So I will be completely honest. The episodes that have been coming out, I've enjoyed them. There are still moments where I laugh out loud, but I do believe that the quality of the jokes and the quality of the story have dipped a bit from what we were getting in season 2.
Please say that you really liked the Joker episode.
The Joker episode had its moments.
Okay, it was
Uh,
my favorite episode. I gave it a 10. I
I
give it
don't
10
know if
much.
it's my
I
favorite
loved it
episode.
so much. I was in stitches the entire time. It's just a Joker dad thing. But the thing about the show is it laid so much groundwork that they can do that sort of thing. There was
It,
also a talk of a Kite Man spinoff, which I don't see that
I
happening
don't
now.
think it's happening anymore. No,
But
especially
I
with
was
everything that's
shocked that
going on with
I was
HBO
shocked
Max.
that we got this, Clay, especially with a couple episodes still left in the season. I was shocked that we got this. It's not
Well,
just this
here's
either. It's we have a new showrunner. Variety reported that Justin Halpern and Patrick Shoemaker would step down to showrunners, and Sarah Peters both taking over duties and being promoted to executive producer. Peters has written on the show since season one and has served as producer. And Halpern and Shoemaker released a statement saying we are with HBO Max and said, "We are ecstatic that HBO Max wants to wants the story of Harley and Ivy to continue. And we are equally thrilled that next season will be in great hands of Sarah Peters as our showrunner and Cece Arvanovich overseeing animation production, as they both have greatly influenced the show with their brilliance since the beginning." So, and
so,
also
but
said the old showrunner said, you can expect this show sooner rather than later this season.
well, that part right there, that is what I want to talk about. So I understand that they announced these new showrunners when the announcement for season 4 came up. But I have to ask, do you think this is a moment where they kind of did exactly what they did for season 1 and season 2, where they went ahead and made all 26 episodes and then decided, hey, we're going to cut in half, do season 1 and season 2?
No, no, not for this, just because of the announcement. And I don't think that at all. I think that they were, because they didn't know, they were asked questions a couple weeks ago and they were unsure if they were going to have this. And the timing of this with a couple episodes left in this season is usually how these things go. It sucks. It kind of, for me, gives the we're not seeing any more Young Justice on HBO Max. Who knows if they let them shop it to Netflix, which is where it was successful initially and got the revival really up and running. So I don't know about I know it for me it means that Young Justice won't come out, and it's going to be uh we're on HBO Max anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, the coming sooner than you think, that worries me only because I don't want the quality of animation to go down,
Yeah. Well,
you
they've
know?
used the same animation the last 3 seasons, so I don't think they're not that smart to continue using. And then if you already have some of these, it's easier to do it. Second and third seasons is quicker.
It is, but animation is still animation, you know?
Yeah.
It shouldn't take less time than it took with the other 3, you know? As far as quality is concerned, that's how I feel. I think it should take as much time, if not maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but it should not be a lot less. So, like, considering last October for Fandom, nothing was ready. And unless they intentionally made the skit with unfinished art, which they could have very much done to make the joke, hey, we're not finished yet. Uh, but being the way that it is, knowing that HBO Max is going to be like kaput in the next year because their plan is to discard both Discovery and HBO Max and then create an entirely new entity to put that content on. Like, this needs to come out fairly quickly.
Yeah, and this could end up on that content as well. Like it went from DC, it's already been on one other streaming service, DCU, went from that to HBO Max. Now it's going. It could end up on that new service as well, Clay. But I don't. I think we'll get this in the next year.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Okay, we got another little bit of news from the DCCW that'll lead us into our main topic of tonight, and that is we have Superman Lois casting their season 3 big bad. Arrowverse alum and frequent DC TV director David Ramsey and Power Rangers knockoff president alumni confirmed that the Orville's Chad L. Coleman, and from Walking Dead fame as well, has been cast as the lead villain of Superman Lois season 3. While Coleman's specific role remains unconfirmed, it's possible he'll be playing Bruno Mannheim, the leader of Intergang, who was name dropped in the series 2 season finale. And don't worry, listeners, I know that he played Tobias Church and 4 episodes of Arrow in season 5.
Yes, he did. He
Yeah.
did. And for me, again, multiverse, he can play different characters. That's
Mm.
totally fine. Intergang, even in I've never read a Superman story that was heavy with Intergang. He's always been a little bit of a nuisance, and he's always been Bruno Mannheim specifically. I remember in the animated series as well as in Justice League, he was always Darkseid's lackey. Um, he was always somebody taking technology from Apocalypse and New Genesis and creating chaos on Earth. Um, so speculation. You think we're getting any hints of Apocalypse or Darkseid in season 3? You are muted, sir.
Sorry. I think that I'm glad though because I hit my dresser like a second earlier and made it shake. And I was like, oh darn, just as he was making a good point too. No, I think that we'll get little teases and hints, but I don't know. I was going to ask you, this think that maybe we could get a dark side at some point in this show?
Man, you know, I all I hope is that it's better than Smallville.
Yeah, yeah.
I love Smallville, and we'll talk more about it when we talk about episode 8 later on in the show. But when I saw the depiction of Darkseid at the season finale or the series finale of Smallville, I was like, man, that is really disappointing. Um, and I believe that with today's technology, we could definitely see a Darkseid.
Clay, look what we saw on Krypton for Doomsday.
No, no,
That
no.
was a TV show. We could definitely
I
see a
totally
fantastic.
agree with you. But
Yeah.
the thing is, we're in Zaslav's world now. When like it comes
No, no,
to
no, 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 we're not because this is a licensed out property right now to whoever owns the CW. That is a licensed out property. This is not a Zaslav world. That's the thing people got to realize is that they don't have the control they would of a theatrical cut or a Batgirl. Like they don't have that control over Superman and Lois.
now, are we talking about that like Star whatever that purchased recently?
Yeah,
Uh
yeah.
but I thought they basically just took on all the debt. They didn't necessarily like
No,
buy it
but they
outright. So
still
as of
they
right
own
now,
75%.
okay.
Yeah. So it's like I
Hmm.
say, they license that out so that they don't have even if they didn't sell that, they're 50-50 partners. That's why the CW like it's co with CBS and WB.
Yeah.
So they like I said, they don't have the decision to say no on stuff like that. So now because they were using there could be things in there about if theatrical is using it, then they can't use it kind of deal. There could be those things. So I'm not sure on the provisions that were in the deal for license out Superman and the at the time CW.
Oh well, you know what? Zack Snyder's Justice League had Darkseid, so I don't think we can have Darkseid.
Well, they allowed him, so they must have plans for they must not have plans for Darkseid for the next 10 years because they said they had plans for John Stewart. We didn't get that Green Lantern because of that. So yeah, now I'll frustrate with that. Still haven't seen Green Lantern, still haven't. But Clay, we'll touch back on this when we get confirmation that he's Mannheim and hopefully that we get a bit more coherent season than last.
For sure.
Okay, let's get into the main topic of this evening, Clay. We have a Stargirl premiere, chapter 1, murder. So, just off the top, before we get into some of the things I wrote down for the show notes, uh, what what did you think of this episode?
It didn't move the needle, unfortunately. Uh we got, of course, all the reintroduction to these characters. My big thing, and I will be honest, I'm pretty sure I forgot every single name of every single character other than Courtney. Um, but we are in, of course, the very much Riverdale part of this series already with all of the high school drama. I will be completely honest. I think that the ending of this episode was quite possibly my favorite. Well, the almost ending. I think it was right before the actual end scene. Um, but this whole thing with everybody kind of being down in the gutters with like oh shoot, the old Starman coming back, and we learn that he actually came back from the dead. um we learn that uh oh shoot, what is his name? Sandman. What is Sandman's name? uh
What?
what is Sandman's name?
Rick?
Rick. Like the whole thing with him, like now having to figure out the algorithm
Formula?
again, or the formula again. Like I think that's kind of dumb. He should have just had it. He figured it out, quote unquote, at the end of season 2. Like again, they're only doing these things to cause like more story to be told through that progression of the character.
So
And
round up, what did you think of the episode in the roundup? Because I missed that part.
well, just for the fact that like I think
You liked it.
my only part that I actually enjoyed out of this entire episode was when Artemis came in and Casey Jones the shit out of everybody.
Oh my
That
god,
was
that's not good. I
oh,
enjoyed that part, but that's not, I mean, like,
now, of course, it's not good for the fact that like she is not a part of the JSA, and just so everybody knows, Travis is having a really hard time with this dog right now.
being a dick.
So I do I do understand that it's not great for Artemis to just be like, "Hey, I'm on the team now. This is my tryout." Blah blah blah, because it does cause conflict. But I laughed out loud. It was a funny moment. I really enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed this episode, Clay. I like the Starman and Stripesy interactions. I like the fact that including new members on the JSA was causing conflict with the core members. That was really enjoyable as well.
See, I called that part a little bit Riverdale-ish. It's the high school drama and stuff, which I
Well,
don't
you're
necessarily
going
like.
you know, because you get that same thing with Starman as well. He's kind of pissed that they're giving second chances to all these people out. You get that little bit of hint of that when he's having a beer with Pat out on the front of the step. So I
Yeah.
thought that was really enjoyable. Where you're getting conflict between, you can understand why Yolanda doesn't want to have. There's more Riverdale. It's more not Riverdale for Yolanda. Like she actually has a legit reason in terms of Sydney like show pictures of her naked and ruin her life
Well,
and cause her
and
family to disown her basically.
she is literally the only one that has any legitimate reason to not trust everybody.
Well,
Rick
you
Rick is always pissed off. He has anger issues. We've
oh
all
yeah,
known
but
that since
he
the very
actually has a
beginning.
point about not trusting him. You never know. Like you did you think the gambler was telling the truth when he showed up?
No, and like again, he wasn't a big like pushing of the needle either, because he wasn't necessarily a character that I absolutely loved in season 2, you know?
Yeah, well, I he's not gonna last long on your season 3 bandwagon there. Did you enjoy the Stripes and Pat and Starman interactions with
I
like?
did, but I do think the only I I need there to be more of like a Pat stepping up, because again, this is very much showing that like uh uh oh shoot, what's Starman's name?
Sylvester Pemberton?
Sylvester. Sylvester is like, "Oh, this is the old days. I'm the hero and you're the sidekick," and kind of putting him down, but also giving him compliments to kind of keep him on his feet and stuff.
It was really
And
weird. It was like
and
he knew what to say to get the staff when Pat kind of was like, "I don't know what staff." He's like, "Pat, thank you for letting me live here."
yeah,
So
and I need Pat to step up. I need
same,
Pat to be like, "Hey, you're coming in as a guest in our house. We're not the old JSA. This is the new JSA."
because he
And
made
we
the
had we had a
display
little
case
bit
too.
we had a little bit of that at the very end, where Sylvester was like, "Hey," talking to Courtney, like, "Hey, you were right. I was wrong. I actually did come back for the staff. I wanted to be Starman again, after, showing that he's been kind of like shady a little bit. Um, and I do like that. But I don't need it to be stretched out throughout the entire
Well, they
season.
didn't. That's why they didn't stretch it out. I'll give them. You could have stretched this out for 3 or 4 episodes. We know the tropes. They got right to it. He told them why he was here right away at the end of the episode. Like you can't ask for it to be at the start of the episode when we got to be filled in. So this was pretty good for me. I liked that they got this out of the way and agreed that while she was in school, he would do the Starman things, and then when she was out, and he would show her some things. I like that. I can't wait to see
Well,
them train. I'm
I
looking for
do
a good
think it is going
training
to cause
montage.
conflict though. I
Oh,
think it's going to
100%, 100%. He still
because
wants the staff there.
he's gonna the staff is gonna be like a drug to him. I feel like
Well, he's
he's
already said, Clay, he had nothing. The only thing he was Starman.
yeah.
So I just don't know if I believe his how he came back. I'm afraid he might not be who he says he is.
Ooh, who do you think he is then?
Well, I don't know who he is, but I'm just saying, like, pretty convenient that he showed up. Now, the staff
So,
working for him is going to go against what I'm saying there.
well, my thing is also, I don't know if you noticed this, but in the very beginning of the episode, there was 3 newspapers on the table, uh, and each one had a headline of lights helping these people that were in peril. Do you think, because one looked like a blur, so it definitely looked like uh the Flash, thinking that it's what's his name? John
Jay.
Wesley Shipp's character.
Yeah. Jay.
Then Jay, yeah. The other one could definitely be the Green Lantern. I didn't really get a good look at the pictures, but all 3 of them were talking about light, so I immediately
Yeah.
thought of Green Lantern. Um, but we also hear that this season would reveal Jade's brother?
Yeah, I thought that we were supposed to find that out, and well, everything's supposed to come to here. I think they know. I did hear that the Stargirl actress say that there's a good conclusion to this, so it's very satisfying. And if we don't get any more, like they leave you on like a good note rather than a cliffhanger type note. So
Yeah.
I think we'll get a good wrap up. I'm really interested.
Oh man, this dog is so while he figures that out, let's go ahead and jump into some of our final topics, our news roundup. Really, we do this on every episode. Just a couple bullet points here. First one, I know that Travis wants to be a part about this, but he is away. Blue Beetle news. We got a quote from Sholo Maraduena. He says right here, a full quote from the article on the Direct. It says DC's newest superhero actor didn't even audition for the movie role.
Hello.
Um, moving on to Blue Beetle news, because I think that we
Wait,
kind of, well, do you not like? I feel like we talked about everything on Stargirl.
the gambler was killed. We didn't even talk about that.
Oh, okay. I mean, again, doesn't push the needle for me
Sorry,
because
sorry, listeners. My dog used the bathroom downstairs, and it seems like he's quite sad about it. He's weaning. He's sooky. So apologies for the back and forth there. I just want to say a couple things before we move on. I think it was like a minute that time, and you managed to transition us out of Stargirl. 3:37 when I left, and it didn't even take a minute and a half, and you transitioned us out of Stargirl. Yeah, we have nothing. So yeah, I did enjoy the gambler coming back to try for redemption. I did not think that he was telling the truth, but we see at the end that he does. He finds out his Becky's last name, and he sends off a letter to her, but he does not survive it. He is killed, and
so
the onus is put on Sydney at the start. We end the episode with her holding something, and she's like, "I didn't do it."
she's holding the gun that he
His
keeps
gun.
trying to
Yeah,
throw away.
yeah, yeah,
So right before, because the thing is, because of who he is as the gambler, he has all of these security cameras all over the city and whatnot, all over town. And we get a pop-up on his laptop that there is a new feed. So I guess his technology actually scans for any type of spyware that
yeah.
is attached to the town, and a new feed is locked in on his computer. He looks at it and he notices, "Oh, that's my mobile home. Somebody's
Yeah.
watching me right now." And he goes outside with his gun, and right before he is about to destroy the camera, we hear this like snarl, like this growl, and then the camera just goes into static. Um, so tell me why it's Solomon Grundy.
I don't because it's not Solomon Grundy because there's no way they wouldn't have saw or heard that he would have been too loud. And Rick has buried him multiple times to try and bring him back to life. If we come back next episode and Rick goes and Solomon Grundy's not there, it will go to your argument. But right now, it's we've only seen him buried and dead. It's definitely the new villain of the season. What that is, I'm not sure. Maybe it's whatever's wrong with Shade. There was green coming out of him at one point, and
See, I completely missed that. I didn't see that.
yeah. So there was a little bit coming out of the corner of his eye. I'm not sure what that was. So listeners, if you know, please hit me up with that. But I think that's why that's all kind of set us up for that. I thought that the conversation between the two mothers, Artemis' mother and Courtney's mother, was super cringe. It was awkward as hell. Like her asking
Yeah,
how
the whole
she
thing,
wanted her
like
JSA membership. That was weird. But I did like the like you
this
said,
is
the
the problem that I
badass
have.
Casey Jones head smashing in of Artemis. But
That was funny, but my problem is this whole thing of like, oh, we need to trust them. We can't trust them. Oh, we need to trust them. When there is a threat on your family, they need to tell Courtney, "Hey, did you know that Cindy's mom just threatened me if I didn't put her on your superhero team?" Like, yeah, that becomes a
or
problem.
Artemis,
And
yeah,
the
but
yeah, but also the big thing is they escaped from prison. That was the whole thing last season. And they get to just
yeah,
go
that
up to a house and live there and nobody's gonna say anything?
Clay Sylvester said that when he was having a beer, he's like, "Yeah, so they deserve second chances too." And I think we're gonna get more of that where they tried to kill Sylvester, and he's not gonna be cool with that. And they broke in the what do you call it? Broke Sportsmaster broke into the house and made smoothies early in the morning, and passed just to Courtney like, "Oh yeah, he just broke in. Oh, ho, ho," and he was a former supervillain, and they just laugh about it. So yeah, I think there's going to be a harsh awakening coming to them about trusting everybody, but I don't want them to get out of the whole hopeful thing that's part of Courtney's charm. So yeah, that's just a couple things I want to talk about. I'm excited to see the second episode, and I kind of enjoyed most of the first episode. So yeah, we'll see where this goes. At least it has its own episode titles.
Finally.
Yes, finally, main topic. Sorry, my friend. I
Yes.
missed a little bit. I blame my doc.
So let's go ahead and jump into, of course, all of this Blue Beetle stuff. Cholo made or said a quote here. I don't remember who he was interviewing with. It says here, Backstage Magazine, and the quote is, he says, uh, "Heading into Blue Beetle, I hadn't auditioned. I had the once in a lifetime opportunity to be booked just off the director believing in me and being like, this is the guy. It has to be this guy." And I'm not going to read the entire quote, but it's basically like him being kind of nervous about that and being like, oh, there's a lot of expectation. Maybe they liked Cobra Kai because that's where I'm big at on Netflix. And basically, the producers and everybody else said, no, it's not because of that. We just think that you're the guy and you need to understand that you have the charm and everything else. And I have not, you are muted again, sir.
No, no, sorry, I wasn't saying anything. I was saying something to my doc. Don't play the Cobra Kai character was essentially what they
Yeah,
were saying to him.
essentially what they said. And I have yet to see Cobra Kai
Same, same.
in any of its capacity. Um but I told Heinz this before we started recording. I cannot be any more hyped than I am because my body and soul will not allow me to. And that is mainly because of everything that has happened at WBD. Because until I am watching the end credits of that movie, I will not believe this movie is being made.
Oh,
Like,
and that's the way WBD, that's the reputation they have at this current moment. What I was saying to you as a glass half full guy was you have to be a little bit because you were super nervous after Batgirl, the after news of Batgirl.
Yes.
You were like, "Oh my god," and rightfully so. People were saying Blue Beetle up next. So the fact that you survived that first round of cutting because Batgirl isn't going to be written off until the next quarter. So the fact that you survived that, you should be a little bit happy about that because things are pretty much done filming, so they're going to get into post. So let's hope because Umberto is seeing a sizzle reel that Zaslav thinks that this could be a big hit with the Latin community.
Yeah, and then also all these quote or articles or I don't know where the where the quote is coming from, but this whole thing about hearing that Blue Beetle and Jaime Reyes have like a very important role moving forward in the DCEU. I don't know where that is coming from. I don't believe it. Again, just like the movie, until I'm there at the end credit scene, and even more so because that would require him to have more projects after this to see him as more of a important role in the DCEU.
Well, he said projects like multiple, so who knows? Maybe we'll get more projects in that Clay. That's I hope I can't wait to see this. So let's get into some more somber news. Some news that we knew was going to happen, so I can't quite call it somber. But fandom's not happening. WB statement said, with the return of in-person events, Warner Brothers Discovery is excited to be able to engage with our fans live at numerous Comic Cons around the world. It will not be scheduling DC fandom for 2022. Color me shocked, Clay. I bet you feel the same. They just had to put a statement out, but what are you going to show this year anyway? Hey, come look at all the things we canceled. So yeah,
DC fandom, the DC canceling event.
yeah.
Um,
So this is not shocking to you, is it?
it's not shocking to me,
No.
but again, when we made the arguments, I still made the argument that there is stuff that you can do for DC fandom. The only thing is, like, my thing was, oh, what about all the milestone stuff? And honestly, because of everything that's going on at WBD, we haven't heard anything on milestone.
Yeah, but
We haven't heard.
that's not enough for to bring in, like, to
No, no,
warrant the
it's
expenditure. You could
it's
do that at a
it's
con.
not. It's not. But I'm saying there is other projects that
Oh,
could
yeah,
have
you're
still moved
right.
forward. But again, the closer and closer we got to like the fall season, we were like, yeah, no, it's not
No,
happening.
not happening, and like Clay said, it would've been nice to spotlight comics too, and animated shows, like, all the different things with DC and cosplayers, but this was not going to happen, folks. Once we got so far in here with this takeover, we kind of saw that this kind of goodwill means nothing to them. When they canceled Batgirl and didn't care about the PR, you knew this was coming. So sad, but maybe we'll get a fandom when they have a big load of DC events.
I
Because if they want to
don't
be
think
like
fandom.
Marvel,
I
you
don't
may
think
get
fandom is
one.
coming back.
You could be right, Clay. You're not. I wouldn't bet
Just
against you right
because
now.
the quote in the article says there's plenty of shows that we can put out our content on as far
Yeah,
as like San Diego Comic-Con. There I think on the vodka stream last week they were saying New York Comic-Con
yeah,
and New York Comic Con, in all honesty, is usually there for the animated stuff. That's where Invincible was debuted. That's where the Spider Into the Spider Verse was showcased as well. Like
yeah.
I do think that New York Comic Con, as far as DC content, is not going to get any greater than what it is now, and which is basically nothing, unfortunately.
Yeah, who
Um,
knows? Like I said, who knows? I would bet with Clay of us not seeing it again, but who knows if they have a lot of content. Clay, the final news item of the night is Lady Gaga. Well, we have another actor cast in Joker 2. I don't know why I said that. Joker 2 adds fourth actor to main cast. Deadline reported that Brendan Gleeson joined the cast of Joker 2 alongside Lady Gaga, Joaquin Phoenix, and Zazie Beetz. So Clay is an unknown character, but Justin Kroll speculated that Gleason could be playing a character linked to Arkham Asylum, either a warden or security guard.
Maybe Amadeus Arkham, I think, is the warden or the person who made Arkham Asylum. Uh, maybe
Maybe.
I wouldn't be against it. I know that Gleason is a great actor. I really enjoy him in majority of the stuff that he's been in. Uh, I don't know. Like I'm still kind of iffy on this movie. I definitely need to see that first look for me to be completely on board because I'm still on the page of hey, this did not need to become a franchise. I think it needed to just stay a one and done. But I know that people are like, oh, it made $1 billion, so it needs 17 sequels. So
No,
we're
they're
gonna beat a
saying
dead
we
horse.
spent such and such $50 million of our own money to make this and got $500 million return. How can we make more with these characters to make more money? That's the only reason. But I think it's still be successful just because of the many people they have. Interesting to me. I don't know the guy from anything. I'm sure I've seen him in things before. And if it's the Arkham, I wonder if it's going to be like the Arkham you see in the comics or more like just a standard mental home. Uh, we'll see what happens to that going forward. Clay, it's time for the final thing of the night. Smallville, episode 8, Jitters. Candyman returns to Smallville. Tony Todd as a special guest here. What do you think about this episode? Enjoyable? I thought it was the best since the
I
pilot myself.
I do think it is the best since the pilot. And more so because of the performances of Tony Todd and Donald Glover, man. Or
Uh, John Glover.
John Glover, not Donald, Jesus. John Glover, just his persona, his just like the menacing tone of his voice, how like he is just goddamn evil. Like for me, the one line that I absolutely love because it definitely foreshadows the entire relationship between Lino and Lex is when the security guard tells him, "Oh, we have to shut the doors. Your son's going to be locked inside, and the place is going to blow up." And Lino just says, "Do it, do it. Leave my son in there."
What got
And
me, Clay, was at the end of that when they're saved and they run out, how the Kents embrace Clark, and then Lex is there with his father and looks over and sees his father hug him for publicity, and looks over at the Kents giving their son real love, and he's just looking at it, being like, "Yeah, I missed out on that." That's such great, like you said, I thought there was some great acting performances. Tony Todd was fantastic. I thought Lex was really good, and John Glover, well, Michael Rosenbaum, and well, Lex and his father, Lionel. I thought that the Kent going off on a romantic night that worked for me. I enjoyed that. I also enjoyed Clark throwing a party. I thought that was very on Clark like and actually work. I love the slow, well, the fast time, the Clark time, the way he runs around. I enjoyed that when he went and got something for the guy to hurl and cleaned up a couple
even
things along the
his
way.
his cleanup.
Yes,
I always remember the cleanup just because at the very end he grabs the apple and like he throws it up and grabs it and you just see John just clap it behind him and stuff.
great,
It's
great,
so good.
great.
But yeah, I really love this episode. Tony Todd uh being in this episode. Uh I I can't remember how or why his jitters are the same as what Hamilton gets. I don't know if it's more so just research that accidentally like gives him the same powers because he does end up getting the shakes as well.
He's working with
Uh
the meteor rocks really closely, so that's probably why it happens
yeah,
to
yeah,
him.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like I've always loved this episode just because of like the conspiracy theory over like level 3 and all of
I
that
also
stuff.
wonder if this is maybe this is where the coffee shop. I'm gonna headcanon it myself. Is the where Flash's TV show got the name for their coffee shop jitters? It's definitely not it. Definitely just getting coffee jitters is what it came from.
Yes,
But
yes.
yeah,
But
I'm gonna headcanon it.
isn't Jitters also the coffee shop that is in Smallville also?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't think so. It's the
Okay.
Talon. It's the Talon. It's the
Oh,
Lana's place. Yeah.
that's right. It's the
And that
Talon.
comes into play a little bit here.
Yeah.
But I like I said, Clay, I love how
Well,
he's friends with the Kents and he goes to them for help first after accidentally killing somebody. And Jonathan is nice to him, not doesn't really believe him, and he has to take the students hostage. It all kind of plays out really quick in this episode. This episode flows super quickly. I was just, like snap my fingers and we were done the episode.
yeah, I really really enjoyed that as well. But one thing that we also enjoyed was the fact that on Talkville, they had the showrunners on this episode of Talkville, and they brought a little bit of insight, of course, just overall running the show. But the one thing that actually started making headlines on Twitter and everywhere else is they had feedback when first creating the show that they really wanted there to be some sort of antagonist type of relationship between Clark and his parents.
Yeah,
Uh,
they
that
wanted
was
their
very, very
parents.
interesting.
Well, that's very, very CW of not liking the parents, and they were steadfast against that, which is the good thing to do, which is the right thing to do.
Yeah, I do think the very important thing overall in the entirety of Smallville is the relationship that Clark does have with his parents for
Parents,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I love that. Tony, we're gonna call him Tony. Earl wants to go to level 3. Lionel has completely scrubbed level 3 of all the things that could get him incriminated. Plasters over the whole wall, whole elevator, but with another wall to hide it. I love how he finds it. Clark finds it. It so great when Lex finds out eventually, and his father's like, "Yeah, just do not deny things, son. Just deny culpability."
Yeah.
It was it, and it's to Lex turn it over on his father by saying like they're going to get him the help he needs or his family.
And pay for everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, great little one-upmanship from Lex to his father. And I also thought I saw Lionel like look and be like, "Oh yeah, good job." I think he did that once during this
Well,
episode. Be like, okay, you got some moves. I'm kind
like
of I'll take
he
notice."
does, but you know that that is very much a thorn in Lionel's side because
Oh yeah,
he's not going to want to spend money on these peasants. That's how
no,
Lionel
no,
looks at
no.
all these people.
100%, 100%. And I think it's more Lionel's taking stock. Okay, I better pay attention to you. Like I may have to destroy you later. Like you may
Yeah.
come for me. And if you watch the whole series, he may come for him. Is definitely not a foreshadowing. But Clay, I really enjoyed this episode. It was my favorite besides the pilot. Glad we checked it out.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what the next episode is, to be completely honest. I can't remember what the next one in line is, but I've been enjoying every single one of these. I know that I missed two of them, and you had to review them with Joe, but I have been enjoying all of these. It's been you have your mic again.
It's the one where the cop. It was one where the cop blackmails Clark.
I don't
He
remember
sees
that
him.
one.
Yeah,
I don't see that one. All right, I don't remember that one.
yeah.
So I I look forward to watching these every single weekend or week that it
This
turns
first
up.
season was great. Like, there were some freaks of the week, but it's still really enjoyable just to see the relationships grow from all these characters and how they all have really good moments further on in the show, and it all comes from the building that started here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But that is it for the show. Thank you everybody who is listening and or watching. Thank you for making it this far. Remember to take the survey that is down in the show notes or pinned to our GUA Twitter account. It'll take just 5 minutes. Give some feedback to us. We would greatly appreciate it. But with that, guys, thank you so much. And thank you for supporting DC Alliance.
See you, everyone.